I did my time and I want out! Why am I still fucking here? Well, I said I was gonna do it, and I am. It's time to do the Mega Marathon. Now, Mega Man is a series that I really love, personally. Um, it's easily one of my favorite video game franchises ever. I would say I feel like I definitely respect this series more than I would say I enjoy it. I respect it just for the fact that it purely emphasizes fun and solid gameplay above all else, which is what I like to see in video games. And today we're going to look at where it all started. Mega Man 1 on the NES. You know, that one NES game where the American box art looks like my Alzheimer's granda trying to cosplay as a Power Ranger. um, but yeah, so let's get right into things. So, by describing the plot here, I'm basically describing the plot of, well, most of the Mega Man Classic series. So, there were two scientists, Dr. Light and Dr. Wily. Now, Dr. Light envisioned a world where robots and humans could live in harmony. He wanted to make robots that could emulate free will as closely as they could. These line of robots were called the Robot Masters. He even viewed some of them as children, the prototype one being called Blues, who I will get into in the Mega Man 3 review. But after he ran away, he and Dr. Wily ended up constructing a few more generic robots just to get money, called the Sniper Joes. But eventually, Dr. Light built more of his true vision, the Robot Masters. Robots who could think, who could basically emulate as close to free will as they could. Not exactly just feeling robots, but it's the closest thing to a free will they could possibly give an AI. And that led to the creation of Rock and Roll, and 6 other Robot Masters who were designed for specific tasks. Dr. Light ended up kind of soaking up all the praise, and Dr. Wily ended up having a bit of a falling out with him. So, seeking recognition and fame for his genius, since he was an egomaniac, he ended up hacking Dr. Light's 6 Robot Masters and tries to take over the world. The robot Rock, with a strong sense of justice, volunteers to be turned into a weapon, and is then called Mega Man. Now it's your mission to set out and defeat the 6 evil Robot Masters and the evil Dr. Wily. Plot's pretty simple. It works for what it is. Super fighting robot fighting other robots. Pretty basic, but it works. Now, let's get into the gameplay. First of all, let's talk about one thing. The game lets you select a level just right off the bat. There's no real order. And there is a specific order you can do them in, which I always do when playing this game, but you can choose anyone right off the bat, which it may not seem huge today, but realistically, when this game came out, this was a freaking revolutionary feature. People had never really seen anything like this in video games before, so it was really impressive. The first Robot Master you're likely to see is Cutman, who apparently wants to make paper dolls out of you. Then there's the guy I always go after first, Bomb Man. He already looks like a washed up, tired old loser, and the franchise is just starting, so I like to put him out of his misery fast. Then there's Gutsman, moving on. Okay, Gutsman isn't the worst ever, but his fight is pretty lame, and his weakness weapon, which I'll get into later, is a pain in the ass to use, and the weapon he gives you is pretty lame as well. And then there's Elakman, who graduated from the looks too much like Mega Man School of Robot Masters. And also, why is his name just Elakman? Oh, was he not good enough for the full electricity word? They had to cut off the tricity part? The Eskimo who pretends to be a Robot Master is Iceman, who, in all honesty, is a pretty decent Robot Master. Weapon's pretty basic, but Yeah, he's fine for what he is. And then there's the most badass, rootinest, tootinest fire robot master around, Fireman. In the remake, they give some of the robot masters more personality, as well as two new ones, Time Man and Oil Man. I'm not talking about the remake today, maybe in the future, but they give Fireman this freaking sheriff personality, and I love him. But yeah. So all the robot masters all around are okay. To be honest, I only really like Elecman, Iceman, and Fireman. I found the other ones kind of forgettable. Like, Gutsman has a decent design, but aside from that, not much else. Command has a good weapon, but meh, I don't really care for his design or his stage, and Bomb Man is just bleh, he's boring. You'll notice me mention weapons, and that is because every time you defeat a boss, you get a special weapon from them. The first of which I always get, because I always go after Bomb Man, is the Hyper Bomb, which has absolutely nothing hyper about it. We're off to a great start here. The other one, the one that I would get next is the Super Arm from Gutsman, which is another pretty shitty one. It can only be used in specific areas. To be fair, there are a lot of blocks throughout the game and you can use it, but, I mean, all the special weapons have ammo attached to them, and you can only use this one in specific places. I feel like this one would work better if there was no ammo for it at all. If it was just like a thing you could do. Or even just change it up. Make it a projectile. It already kind of is, but like a projectile you can use anywhere. The rolling color from Cutman is pretty useful. If kind of basic, the Elect Beam is fucking awesome. The Ice Beam is only really useful for one type of really annoying enemy in the game. These big, stupid enemy sponge eye fuckers, which have really unpredictable jumping patterns and take a huge amount of health. And there's Fireman, whose weapon, the Firestorm, is pretty good, but I always go after him last, so I never really use it, ever. It's never really useful in the Wily Castle levels, which are the levels you go into afterwards. All the Robot Masters levels are kind of bleh. Like, what was Capcom? Like, the themes don't really feel like they apply to them much, and when they do, the themes are kind of boring. Like, if the level even really has a theme at all. Like, was Capcom just like, Cutman, yes, a robot intended to be a lumberjack. His level theme would be white whatever the fuck world. And then at the end of the game, as I said, there are the Wily Castle levels. Which is basically just a gauntlet where you run right through. The only thing that gets replenished in between levels is health. You use up weapon energy in one level, it'll stay like that throughout the rest of the journey. So yeah. Control-wise, if you've played other Mega Man games and you come into this one expecting it to play as tightly as like 3 or 7 or 9 or 10, you thought wrong. The jump is really weird and floaty. It makes Mega Man feel kind of weightless. And the controls are really slippery too. It's like Mega Man's constantly running a fucking skateboard around. And like, while I said Mega Man feels really floaty and weightless, he drops like a fucking rock. Like at the start of Gutsman stage, there are these like platforms with like that sometimes like drop down, and there's honestly almost no time to react to them because as soon as they go down, Mega Man just goes right to the fucking bottom. It's insane. Like he drops like extremely fast, but when jumping, he feels so floaty and weightless. Makes the controls feel kind of awkward. It's nothing unplayable, just not nearly as tight as future games. But yeah, overall, aside from the shitty controls and sometimes annoying due to shitty weakness weapon boss fights, the game's not that hard. I've seen some people say this is one of the harder classic Mega Man games, but I actually kind of find it to be one of the easier ones. It's definitely not bad, it's just kind of underwhelming. The game definitely has a case of first game syndrome. It's not that difficult, it's extremely short, and the controls are a bit rougher on the edges. And yeah, as for Mega Man games, it's definitely not that hard. That isn't a fucking Yellow Devil! Oh, Jesus Christ. So, for those of you that don't know, there is a boss in the first Wily Castle stage, which makes me pull my fucking hair out. And everyone else who's ever encountered it. It is known as the Yellow Devil, and for some reason Capcom keeps having homages to it in future games, despite the fact that nobody likes this fight. There's definitely a pattern, but it's so unpredictable and annoying. Because of Mega Man's weird controls, it's so hard to dodge. Maybe if this were like a future game where you have like the slide and the tighter controls, it would be easier, but it's really annoying here. It's less like you can't see the pattern coming, and more like it's just hard to avoid. Because of Mega Man's floaty jump, you end up just hitting things. You'll dodge one stupid fucking blob, and then another one will hit you in the face. So unless you know to just do like tiny, quick little jumps, and you have like extremely good foresight, you're gonna die quite a few times. But aside from that one really awful fight, the Wily Castle levels are not the worst thing ever. The final boss is pretty easy, and instead of having a traditional boss rush like all other Mega Man games where you get put into a room and you select the boss one at a time, they get like randomly thrown at you in the middle of levels. Sort of like Mega Man X1, if you've ever played that. Instead of just going into a room and being like, okay, pick a boss, instead you'll just be going through a level and boom, cut man. And boom, terrorism man. Like, I don't really mind it, although again, it kind of adds to the fact that this game is a little easier than others. And there's only 6 Robot Masters, so yeah, they're kind of few and far between. So yeah, as for the presentation, the graphics are nice. Mega Man's sprite looks pretty decent. It's kind of standard for the NES, but yeah, pretty decent sprite work. Again, the environments are kind of ugly though, because like, there's just so much lack of like a theme in the levels, you know? Like, when there is a theme, it's just kind of bland and meh. Aside from like Iceman's level where, I mean, yeah, it's ice, but that's like the one I found interesting. Again, like, Cutman's level is just generic, random, fucking white, whatever the fuck world. And it's just, it's just not pleasant on the eyes, because what am I even looking at here? So yeah, like, while the characters and enemies look fine, the levels themselves and the environments are kind of whatever. The music's pretty fine, but again, first game syndrome, so definitely not Mega Man 2 or Mega Man 3 tier. But yeah, all things considered, this is a pretty decent game. It is the first game, so you definitely have to cut it some slack. But if you've played other Mega Man games, like later ones, and you expect this to be of the same quality, maybe lower your expectations. I'll give this game about a 6.5 out of 10. Next time, we are going to be tackling possibly the most famous Mega Man classic game, Mega Man 2. See you next time, and fuck you, Captain Crunch, for getting me stuck in this shithole once again. I'm the guy with the googly eyes, and I'll see you guys later.